Good afternoon, I'm Vashon Brown with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot Media. Police statistics have confirmed that 11 persons were shot, 5 fatally, during attacks by gunmen in Kingston and St. James last night. In Kingston, 2 vendors were killed at Coronation Market. They've been identified as 34-year-old Dane McDonald of Fitzgerald Avenue, Kingston 13, and 54-year-old Sonia Bennett of Christopher Road, Kingston 14. A man was shot and injured. Persons reported hearing explosions shortly before 10 o'clock and contacted the Darling Street Police. The injured persons were taken to hospital where Miss Bennett and Mr. McDonald were pronounced dead. Meanwhile, gunmen struck on Metcalf Street in Denhamtown, Kingston last night, leaving an auto body repairman Rupert Grant dead and another man injured. About 8:50, the men were standing along the road when a white Nissan AD wagon drove up. Now, the occupants of the car came out and opened fire, hitting them. They were taken to hospital where Mr. Grant was pronounced dead. The other man was admitted in stable condition. Over in St. James, 6 persons were shot, 2 fatally last night when gunmen opened fire in Providence Heights. The shooting happened along Nasberry Place sometime after 8 o'clock when a group was playing dominoes outside a house. Residents say an armed man approached the group and started shooting. Persons ran toward a nearby shop trying to escape when 2 other men also started shooting at them. The injured persons were rushed to hospital where 2 were pronounced dead. The 2 have been identified as O'Neill Gibbs, a laborer, and Tevin Campbell, a carpenter, 25 years old. Their grief-stricken mothers say their sons were good citizens.
Tevin no trouble nobody. Me don't know if Tevin and nobody up here not nothing at all. Tevin and everybody up here friend. Everybody friend. See all my neighbors, everybody friend. Tevin. I don't know. A cigarette Tevin go by. Tevin caught up in the shooting.
I didn't expect this. When I hear saying get shot, I figure more or less I go past I'll go see. I wait for him to come my yard. When I reach out to me saying dead, I'll know me in a disbelief. Because I don't know if they talk to people that's then just going to kill it so. I don't know where this they come from. I just have to tell myself that in that the wrong place at the wrong time.
And as the number of killings continue to rise, one resident says she's tired of the continuous killing in the community and is demanding that something be done.
Right now, I feel say we need justice, and the only justice I see we're going to stop them killing here is hanging. And I feel say hanging to come in because I be a young picnic, I take up guns, supposed to hear the shot them, I'll picnic in the lane, I play picnic with none of we can't picnic them, can't come out complain on at all now, you know. And for know, so we innocent, we have a picnic them innocent and dead there. I can't take that something here no more, I can't take it no more.
And still on the crime scene, 1 person is in hospital following a shooting at the Mapen bus park in Clarendon on Tuesday night. It's reported that about 7:15 p.m., gunmen opened fire at the bus park. A vendor was shot. The vendor was rushed to hospital where he's still treating gunshot wounds. Meanwhile, a medical professional attached to the Kingston Public Hospital, KPH, is concerned about the effect the bloodletting across the nation continues to have on the country's health services. Addressing yesterday's meeting of the Joint Select Committee of Parliament, reviewing the Zones of Special Operations Act, consultant anesthetist at the KPH, Dr. Ann Gibson, that's Dr. Ann Jackson Gibson, says the treatment of numerous gunshot and stab wound victims has been stifling the hospital's capacity to perform operations on other patients.
Cancers that need to be done because the emergencies are taking away not just time but resources from these. For 2016, we had 724 gunshot wounds that survived A&E. We had 207 that were dead on arrival. We had 335 stab wounds. This is just KPH. And we had 21 stab wounds that were dead on arrival. The total, therefore, ended up to be 1,059 that ended up going to the wards. So you have 1,059 persons that are occupying beds on the wards that we need to put elective cases in. And a lot of these people going to the operating theatre.
Meanwhile, Dr. Jackson Gibson says the hospital's intensive care unit, ICU, continues to be overwhelmed by the large volume of gunshot victims. She says for January to June 20 this year, there have been 28 admissions to the hospital's ICU for gunshot wounds. Dr. Jackson Gibson estimates that the KPH has spent close to $80 million so far to treat these emergency patients. On to other news now. In the wake of the recent flooding across the island, the Ministry of Health has intensified its vector control program. Director of Environmental Health in the ministry, Everton Baker, says the ministry has mobilized more workers for the program due to the severity of the flooding.
And specifically in the areas where we have more flooding, like in the southern plain of Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, some parts of Manchester, Clarendon in particular, St. Catherine, St. Elizabeth, Portland to a great extent. So what we have done really is mobilize more resources in respect to the number of personnel. We have started to employ some temporary workers to bolster the numbers we have sending out into the communities.
And Mr. Baker says the period of fogging has been increased.
In some instances, 3 days to 7 days per week. So most of the heavily affected areas we are doing 7 days per week fogging. And not just fogging, but we have to do this, what we call source reduction, find the breeding sites and treat them as best as possible. Because in normal times, we do not have so much mosquito population, but in the rain and the ponding and flooding and water collecting just about everywhere, then it's going to produce the ideal site for breeding.
Residents of Black River and St. Elizabeth can breathe a sigh of relief as they won't have to travel to neighboring parishes to seek private medical care. The Black River Hospital has opened a 2-bed private suite with assistance from hotelier Jason Hensel. Now, the staff at the hospital are grateful for the donation, which they argue will better help them to care for patients.
Persons previously would have to travel as far as South, 22, Kingston, Hargreaves. Now we're giving them that option of just staying in their parish and coming to our seaside resort.
Dr. Sheriff Imaru says the suite will bring some financial reward to the hospital, which will be used to improve the services offered at the facility. The benefactor, Mr. Jason Hensel's decision, was prompted by his stay at the hospital last year.
In life, when you have blessings, you try and pass it on. And, I've been fortunate, and, the donation that I gave was a small token, but you have transformed that into something that's large and that's going to touch the lives of many people over the years to come. And I hope that as my business grows, that I can continue supporting the hospital in more meaningful ways.
The Health Ministry is seeking to transform Black River from a Type C to a Type A to a Type B hospital. It will take a while longer for the Ministry of Health to get results of tests done on a patient who has exhibited symptoms of a waterborne bacteria. The ministry had expected the results from the Caribbean Public Health Agency on Tuesday. That was delayed, and the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Winston Delahaye, in an update to TVJ News last night, said there is a further wait.
So we spoke with CAFA this afternoon. We're following up every day. We understand that they had severe weather conditions in the last 2 days down here, especially yesterday. So they explained that they weren't in a position to provide us with the result today. And what we'll do is call them again tomorrow. But as you know, the usual, as we know, you know, so as we get the news, we'll be calling.
The patient was readmitted to hospital on June 9 after recent bowel surgery. He had a fever. Routine investigations identified the waterborne bacteria in his blood. As a precautionary measure, the patient has been isolated. 60 water tanks were issued across St. Mary to assist with the parish water problems. 12 water tanks were donated to 12 schools across the parish. Speaking at a function in Gale yesterday, Member of Parliament for Western St. Mary Robert Montague says usually schools have to be closed for a day or half because of the lack of the commodity.
Because of the challenges we face in these parts, a number of schools who are doing exceptionally well don't have the facilities for storing water. Because a lot of the schools were built long ago and built by church and all of that, and the capacity and the money to even put in the storage is just not there.
Mr. Montague says St. Mary has a water problem even if the parish is not experiencing a drought. He adds that this is because there are not enough pipes in Western St. Mary to distribute the water. He says the municipal corporation does not have enough trucks. He noted that he approached the rural water supply company with a proposal to solve the problem.
Entomb some springs and to use solar pumps to get water into community. So they have started with the common water supply, and they are now putting in the line and putting in the solar panels so that the people of Kama, because the Kama spring is at the lower end of the community. So what we're doing, we're entombing the spring, piping it to the highest point, put some tanks there, and then gravity feed it back into the community.
He also said rainwater harvesting is currently being implemented in some primary schools in the parish. News now in sports. Two-time finalist Tetsi Lights Out Davis secured the last semi-final spot in the 2017 Ryan Nephew Contender Series after securing a split decision victory over Canada's Ryan Young last night. Showing a return to his best form, Davis dominated and outboxed Young in a clinical display packed with his trademark power punches. In the end, Davis won the fight with two judges scoring the contest 50-45 and 49-46, while Young was surprisingly given the win 48-47 on the card of the third judge.
Eastman as my idol, and I put it off and I work.
Guys, I don't make excuses. Davis came out here, did his thing today. Don't take nothing away from him. Obviously, you know, I like to fight a little bit better, but, you know, I don't make excuses, guys. Today wasn't my night.
Now, the series will take a one-week break before returning on July 5 with Davis meeting Sakima Mullings in the first semi-final. Richard Frog Holmes will meet Phil Rose in the other semi-final. And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for a primetime news package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, have a good afternoon.